So when are the outcomes of a market efficient? Well, when all opportunities to make things better for all of the parties involved are being exploited. And this has three dimensions. The first one we just discussed, that's the exchange efficiency. So there's no opportunities for trading that makes at least one of the parties involved better off that are left unexploited. And in the textbook, you can have a look at the two other dimensions of efficiency: production efficiency and product mix efficiency. And only when all of these efficiency conditions are met, we consider the outcomes of a market to be efficient. As you may have noticed, the way that we use the term efficiency is very different from the colloquial sense. In the colloquial sense, efficiency mainly refers getting the max output per unit of input, which may make you wonder, so are those terms also, how do those terms contrast? And that's something that we'll discuss in Wednesday's tutorial. There's this exercise in which we raise this question. Could it be that we have a production process that is very efficient in the colloquial sense, but not efficient in terms of welfare economics? And we'll discuss that within the context of agricultural production. Well, we get a lot more output given the input in that sector, by all means. But we'll then be discussing the welfare consequences of that. All right. To make this term efficiency or efficient, being efficient, clearer, let's apply it to a specific case. Let's look under the table. Shoes. The market for shoes. And we'll consider this market. So are the things produced that we would like? And in the terms of our textbook's author, we'll address the following. The most fundamental normative issue for welfare economics is the economy's organization. What should be produced? How should it be produced? For whom? And who should make those decisions? And that's a nice sentence, right? But let's apply it to something very mundane, namely our shoes. And so does the market for shoes lead to efficient outcomes? We see a great variety of shoes being produced, being for sale, but should we consider the outcomes of the market to be efficient or no? Well, we leave shoe production here in the Western Europe to the market. And so we leave it up basically to entrepreneurs to exploit profit opportunities here, so they can leave or enter the business if they like, and they have all the incentives to actually exploit opportunities for trading and also for the reallocation of resources within the production side of the economy. And that has happened a lot in this market for shoes, because what has basically happened is that first of all, has been lots of replacement of expensive labor for cheap labor. So reallocation of production sites, first, for example, from the Netherlands to Portugal and then on to China. And then secondly, lots of labor has been replaced by capital. So it's basically, you see here robots producing the shoes that you wear. There has been a great reallocation of resources by entrepreneurs, basically exploiting the opportunities to do so. Yeah, that seems fine, right? That entrepreneurs are doing what they're supposed to do, and so that's all in line with microeconomics 1. But the question that we now raise in microeconomics 2 is, okay, but is this outcome also efficient? Or could there be any reasons why the market may not result in efficient outcomes, and any reasons to intervene in this market? Now, one of the things that happened in the shoe market as a result of those changes in the production process is the rise of the so-called disposable shoe. That shoes became very, they are made differently, and they are also a lot cheaper than they used to be. And one of the things that changed in the design of shoes is that you basically you cannot resole them anymore. So yeah, so when the sole is gone, you basically throw out the shoe, right? So the shoes are worn for a much shorter period now, most shoes actually, than they used to. Now that has two consequences. First of all, more waste. The waste per household has been going up over the last decades greatly, and part of that waste are shoes. And there's much less work for shoe repair shops now than there used to be. So the number of shoe repair shops has also declined greatly. So it's like half the number as in 1990. So in 30 years' time, half of all shoe repair shops in the Netherlands disappeared for lack of work. If we will do a hands up now, so who has been in a shoe repair shop over the last year? So since January 2020, I guess very few of you. That most of the shoes that we currently wear are not worth repairing because the repair cost would be huge, and yeah, most shoes cannot even be repaired. So there's no reason to go to those shops. So what happens instead is that you throw them out, and the waste is incinerated. That has consequences because those incinerators create air pollution, and this air pollution makes us sick and may lead to premature death. So, do those developments in the market for shoes lead to any inefficiencies? Well, let's then apply this concept. What are inefficiencies again? Well, it basically means that opportunities are not fully exploited. What kind of opportunities? Well, opportunities for training in the first place, but also opportunities for making changes within the production process, the allocation of inputs, and also the mix of products. Well, can you think of anything, any opportunities for either changing trading or changes in production process that would make everybody better off, or at least some of us better off and nobody worse off? Well, we just discussed one side effect of these changes in the production side of this market, and yeah, that's air pollution. And it may be that people are willing to pay for clean air, right? Because we really care about the air, because it may make us sick. But unfortunately, there's no market for clean air. So it's not like I can make a trade and pay you for clean air. So the question is then, how in the world are we going to, would we ever go to a world where people use more durable shoes? So so that we produce less waste. Well, the way of getting there is making sure that people face the full costs of shoe production, including, for example, the costs of incinerating waste. And those costs are obviously higher for a household if they always buy those disposable shoes, right? So, well, one way of making sure that people face this cost is by having a tax on producing waste. But we may also want to create a market for clean air. And that is not as unrealistic as it may sound. We'll be experimenting with a market for clean air in next week's tutorial, actually. And there's many examples of those markets where the right to pollute, so the right to produce less clean air, so to say, is being traded. In that case, what may happen is that all of the people who care about clean air may express their willingness to pay in euro terms, and actually pay others, consumers of shoes, to buy more durable shoes, so that waste goes down and air pollution goes down. Right, so that is the basic underlying idea. Obviously, such a trade will never take place, but it shows you that this market is not efficient because certain opportunities for trading are unexploited. That the people who care about clean air cannot express their willingness to pay because there's no market for clean air. And as a consequence, we are now in a situation with market outcomes that are not efficient. Okay, shoes are very cheap, but there's also pollution. More generally, so markets have brought us a lot of wealth, and the capitalistic system has been very successful in creating income. And as you can see here, it is truly amazing what happened thanks to the so-called capitalist revolution. However, this came with a cost. So we basically destroyed the planet in the process. This is the CO2 in the atmosphere, so the whole global warming. And then secondly, for instance, this is just a random example, but the oceans are now pretty much empty. There's completely dead zones in the oceans. And so it seems like the outcomes, the market outcomes, may not be ideal. That they may be great in terms of producing lots of cheap products, so everybody can have, for example, shoes in line with the latest fashion. But in the meanwhile, there's all kinds of other consequences that make those outcomes less desirable, and basically mean that everything is going in a direction that is, well, there's going to be end of human life on the planet. And so all of this environmental degradation, is that really what we want? That we may have a lot of money in the bank, but maybe we want to make sure that there's also other dimensions like clean air and clean water and over exploitation of natural resources, that all of those things are also taken into account. And if we do want that, how do we go about it? yeah, so in how are those policies going to work? What are the trade-offs between alternative policies? For example, a tax or um, the market in pollution rights that we just discussed, and that we will be playing around with next week in the tutorial. And who is going to decide?